Alright, before we get started here, I don't know if you can see down in here, right down inside that connector there, it's all full of dirt. So this lockup function hasn't been working unless they got a hydraulic valve in here, so we're going to find out if we do. If not, we're going to have to put one in here. It's going to be kind of quiet this morning, getting going before everybody else is here. So we're not going to have the fan noise in the background. $15mm on the tail housing, I'll take that off later. 15mm on the linkage. Knock our governor cover off. Four by fours, they don't have this clip that holds the cap on, so don't bother putting a seal on, just silicone it in place. We're going to check the head of our governor here, make sure it's not loose, our gear's okay, make sure our valve's moving. You're looking good. 13mm on the pump. $13mm on the pan. Looking pretty yummy. $13mm on our detent. On all of this. Somebody's put a really heavy duty spring on there. It's the 1-2 accumulator. Pins are super bad about wearing out in these. When we get this other pin, we'll check it all. So a little clip in here, you just pull that back and you can undo your harness. Depending on what model and everything is how many pressure sensors you're going to have, if any. check the valve in a little bit. See if we got the hydraulic valve in it. And 3/4 accumulator down here. Check your pin, see how much wobble is in there. It's bad enough to be replaced. Our 1-2 is even worse, so they're both getting replaced. $13 millimeters on the bracket for park. You don't need to take it all the way out. Go ahead and get all of our check balls. Looks like they put a bunch of brass ones in here. Just get between the pump and the reverse drum and pop it out. And go ahead and take our servo out. Come on. Alright, somebody's already put a Corvette servo in here. $13 millimeters on the stator. Check this shaft really good to make sure it's not ring cut. It's very common. I forget what the complaint was on this one. Let me go check that real quick. Alright, the complaint is it quits moving. This has got the early 8-vein rotor in it. I'm surprised nobody's ever changed it out. We'll be changing it out to the 10-vein. It looks like we got a bunch of converter clutch material, so the converters come apart and plugged up the filter. And needed a pump vane and rotor kit anyway. Anytime you start seeing silver on this slide right here, you're going to need to replace it. Our pump washer. Make sure the band is off of the anchor in there. Band is not burnt, but we will be replacing it. Front sun gear looks good. Looks like the bushings might have been replaced in this. I was thinking we was going to have to put a bushing kit. We may get by with just the normal ones that I normally replace. Alright, find the opening to your snap ring. And pull your snap ring out. Make sure our pinions aren't wobbling. They feel nice and free, no pits or chips in our gears. Check our bearing down inside. We all look good there. Bearing on the back side of the planet. Four-tab washer, brass washer. It goes between the shell and the hub. Four-tab plastic washer between the sun shell and center support. Put your sun gear, rear sun gear in your shell and see if there's a lot of play. There's very little, so this shell's still going to be okay. Make sure our gear's okay here. Now, you need to get a long screwdriver and pull your snap ring out for your center support. Alright, wanting to be difficult. You want to get on your snap ring and pull it out and kind of twist and pull at the same time, and it'll pull it out of there. A lot of people would cut a notch in the, or grind a notch in the end of the screwdriver here to help do that. I never have done that. Alright, if there's two-wheel drive, I would just shove the case against the wall and it would push this out. 4x4, just tap it out. Alright, the case has got some wear in it. Nothing that it won't work, but there's a spot where the anti-clunk spring is. You're going to get your snap ring pliers, get in there, and then up against the case, twist your sprag assembly, your center support, and then it will come out of there. Check our planet here, make sure no wobble. Same thing we did on the front planet. It's looking good. Our sprag turning clockwise, locking counterclockwise, and sprag is feeling pretty loose. And there's not much there. It's not surprising, as old as this is. We'll put a low sprag in. And some low and reverse steels. Our output shaft. Make sure this is good right here where the governor gear rides. You got a bearing between the planet and the ring gear, and a bearing between the ring gear and the case. Your anti-clunk spring. We'll take the piston out in a minute. Reverse inputs. check the drum down in here, make sure it's not beat up where the cushion plate goes. It's looking okay. Make sure we're not ring cut back here. Make sure the surface is okay. You're also going to want to find something flat. Use a straight edge, whatever you want. This is flat, so we're going to stick this on here. And the drum is pretty much flat, so we're okay. If you see a dish in there, you're going to want to replace this. One of the things you might see on this is the band will be burnt, and it'll be burnt out here and on the outsides of the band, and the center will be fine. There's our piston, our input drum, and 3 4s right here. Make sure that these lugs aren't breaking out. Oh, we got the early style sprag. A washer here. On later ones, that washer would not be there. Another snap ring. This is our forwards. Overruns are down here. Bearing that goes on the front of the drum. This washer right here, you can normally put a thicker one in. This one's pretty thin, doesn't even have a number on it. Usually you can put a number 70 in there and you'll be fine. I think I'm out, so I'll be ordering one. Bearing between the drum and the sprag assembly. Here's our overruns. Our forwards, so we need forward steels. And our sprag assembly. Hopefully you can see all this good. Early sprags especially, you want to replace them every time. But I always replace a sprag no matter what. So we may even update this to the later style. I don't know, we might leave it just so we can show it on the assembly. Alright, let me go take this drum apart. There's a seal on the back of the drum here. Alright, our return spring. Our drum is empty now. We want to look down inside this hole right here. Make sure that that hole is straight and not stepped. Alright, sorry about the interruption, but I had to take that call. I had to pass on some bad news. So these are aluminum pistons in here, and yes, this piston does crack every once in a great while, and people have a fit when I don't replace them and put the rubber molded ones in from a 4L60E. And I tell you, I've been doing these trannies pretty much since about the time that they came out, and I don't know, I've done thousands and thousands of them, and I have seen maybe 5 of those that were cracked. So don't get your panties in a wad about them. Like I said, make sure that that hole that's in there is not stepped. If it was, we would be replacing the drum. Alright, let's take the low reverse piston out. You're going to need a tool. Find the opening of your snap ring and go the 90 degrees to it. It'd be a little bit easier if I had that tail housing off. Need a pair of snap ring pliers. Get this where I can see it. Alright, our return spring, our snap ring, and then shoot some air in that hole right there. And our piston. Now, I don't remember what year it was, but there was one of these that was bad about cracking and had other problems, but I think that was the early 4L60E. Now that I get to thinking about it, I would pull this valve out, but I can tell you right now, it does not have the hydraulic lockup valve in it, because it's got the aluminum plug in here. So we're going to need a hydraulic lockup valve for this thing. The other thing that we want to check, find out what kind of boost valves we got in here in our pump. Need a pair of snap ring pliers. Here's our snap ring. And I can tell you right now we're going to have to replace these boost valves. They're too small. I don't never run the ones that are this small. And hopefully we can get them. I'm surprised that when they put the Corvette servo in here, they didn't put a shift kit, which is not a big deal. I wouldn't put a shift kit anyway. I can make it shift as hard by doing modifications on my own than putting a shift kit in. Now we're going to grind some flats on here. Probably get us a new spring. This valve here, the reverse boost, we're going to put at least a 290 in it. And this one here, the main boost, I'm going to at least put a 432. Maybe bigger than that. Alright, let me write this up and I'll be back. Alright, we're going to put an LS kit, which is a kit with clutches, filter, pump bushing, case bushing, both stator bushings, band. The forward sprag, you can call it the overdrive sprag, doesn't matter. And both the races, I'm going to swap it over to the later style. It's stouter. There's no point in leaving the early one in. It's so weak. Both accumulators. Pump slide vane and rotor kit, we're going to update it to the 10 vane. Here's our valves from Sonex, the valve and the spring. So there's our main boost is the 700R4-LB1. There's several different ones you can put in of the reverse boost. I'm putting a large ratio in. It's a K77898A, and then the spring is a 77917-08. Low sprag, low reverse steels, forward steels, and a hydraulic lockup valve. Of course, torque converter. My tag is long since gone. The vanes are leaning slightly to the left, so that should tell them what they need for the stall. And then we'll get this sold and we'll get it put in. I'll see you on the build.